Yeah, I'll react to that, sure.
Hey guys, so why? What? Hi, how are you? Good, I hope. Why wasn't Italy occupied after World War II? Preemptive, like. Obviously we're going to learn here why, but I guess maybe because Germany and Japan were both kind of. Germany definitely instigated the war in World War II, and Japan was already doing its thing in East Asia before World War II even started. So I feel like they were more individual actors, whereas Italy. I don't know why they weren't occupied at all. They were still a big part of the Axis. They're one of three. I don't know, but that's my guess, is that Germany was kind of the big European instigator. So
Of the losing side in World War II, Italy was the only major belligerent to avoid occupation after 1945. It wasn't subject to division like Germany was, or forced constitutional change like Japan. Instead, Italy was mostly disarmed, lost its overseas territories, and was forced to pay reparations. But it was largely rehabilitated within a couple of years, which raises the question, why? Why wasn't Italy occupied like the rest of the Axis powers after World War II? So, as many of you will know, Italy was the first of the major Axis powers to admit defeat. This saw King Victor Emmanuel III order his government to side with the Allies and fight against the Axis forces that remained in the north of the country. And as a result, for the most part, pragmatism took over for the Allies. The primary concern for the US and UK was defeating the Germans in the north and destroying the Italian Social Republic run by the fez-wearing Italian man. This meant that unlike after Germany and Japan's defeat, the Allies didn't have the resources to administer the day-to-day running of the country. As such, many of those who had served the fez-wearing Italian man were essentially pardoned.
by the way, I saw a video. Was a Mark Felton video? Oh, by the way, guys, I got some useful. I gotta get them up better. Sorry. Shoot, what was I gonna say? Oh my god, I have the attention span of a dead cockroach.
And beyond this, Italy wasn't subject to massive deindustrialization.
Yeah, my god. Oh yeah, what happened to him? Like he in like the public square after. Yeah,
were
not a good
essentially
time.
pardoned. And beyond this, Italy wasn't subject to massive deindustrialization since it was easier to manufacture things there for the war effort. And given that the war wouldn't be over for another couple of years, the government remained largely stable. So what about after the war? First of all, unlike Germany, the USSR had no troops in the country. Yugoslavian communist partisans had sent some of their troops into the north, but ultimately they could be removed, meaning that only the Western Allies were involved in Italy's post-war settlement. Furthermore,
I never thought about that. How Italy could have been separated between two, just like Germany was, if... Because I'm sure Russia saw Italy, not as angrily as they saw... That's not the best word, but it gets my... As they saw the Germans, obviously. But they were in league with them. Yeah, that'd be crazy if the Soviets were also involved in conquering Italy too.
Most of those who had worked under Mussolini in government were staunch anti-communists, and given that the Cold War was about to begin in earnest, that was good enough. Another reason was that unlike Japan and Germany, there was no real desire for vengeance against Italy. The American people would accept absolutely nothing less than utter capitulation by Japan in response to its attack on Pearl Harbor, and Germany's regime was seen as so evil that any traces of it had to be eradicated. Whereas Italy was just, well, Italy. Italy wasn't seen as a threat to the very existence of any major allied nation, just some of their colonies.
I wasn't going to say that.
And some countries in southern Europe. Furthermore, in the existence of any major allied nation, just some of their Italy. Italy wasn't seen as a threat to the very existence of any major allied nation, just some of their colonies and some countries in southern Europe. Furthermore, in the United States there was a large voting bloc of Catholic Italian Americans, and Roosevelt wanted to win re-election. Britain and France had wanted to take a harsher tone towards Italy. They refused to prop up the Italian monarchy and wanted much harsher restrictions on its post-war military, but the United States simply overruled their demands. Instead, Italy would lose its overseas empire, would demilitarize its borders, had strict limits on its military equipment, and wasn't allowed to have nuclear weapons.
I have something to say, but I'm going to wait till the end, okay?
The reason why the US could do this was that neither Britain nor France could spare the cash or the troops needed for an occupation. These restrictions would last until 1949 when Italy joined NATO.
Guys, we were so well... The more I learn about World War II, the more I realize just how well the USA... Like, in terms of who... I feel like the USA might have been the only country in the world that actually improved after the war. Am I right there? Like, it seems like America did, like, in terms of World War II, World War II happening was a very good thing for America, as insanely bad as that sounds. A good thing. It's just, 80 million people died or something. Obviously, you know what I mean. They were so much more powerful because they were so far away. Their factories couldn't be bombed like every other country's factories could. They were just pumping out stuff. Again, they have the barrier of the Pacific Oceans and very docile, weak neighbors on the north and south. And then when the war's over, they're the only ones with still have a bunch of money and a perfectly... It's just, it's insane.
And it was allowed
That's
to...
not the thing I want to say, by the way. I have something
because
else.
it's sat on the front lines of the Cold War in Europe. I hope you enjoyed this episode with a special thanks to my...
What did you say at the end there?
These restrictions would last until 1949 when Italy joined NATO, and it was allowed to rearm because it sat on the front lines of the Cold War in Europe. I hope you enjoyed this episode.
Great as always. Okay, guys, I'm gonna say this. I might get some people mad, but I'm not saying this to like poke fun and be like, ho ho, typical France, Italy. By the way, France, not deserving of like the surrender, whatever. They have one of the best, if not, arguably the best military history of most nations. But where's it really seems like Italy was, to simplify it, and tell me if I'm wrong, please tell me if I'm wrong, okay? But that Italy... Let me start with France. France, I think, World War II-wise, does sort of deserve the... France seemed to surrender so... I don't want to say easily. They were surrounded at Dunkirk. The Germans blow through the line. They surrounded the majority of the army, I think. And what are you going to do? They have Blitzkrieg and all these perfectly well organized assaults. Through the Ardennes and whatnot. I get it. What do you want us to do? But every single other country, think about Russia, think about Germany, think about Japan. You had to destroy their entire existence in order for them to surrender. Whereas France, it sort of seemed like you just sort of... And I'm curious about this. Why did France surrender so much quicker, more quickly than it took other nations in World War II to surrender? The U.S. is an ocean away, so I get that we can't really talk, but you definitely capitulated faster, and many other places I think would have been like you would have to destroy Paris and kill everyone. Think about Japan. They took 2 nuclear weapons. I mean, they're on another level of insanity. Like, you have the Germans who were insane and went all the way until you're at the bunker and had kids there to defend. And then you had the Russians, crazy, didn't give up ever. I would say Britain, never surrender. Churchill saying that, but you do have the English Channel, so it's not as... I'm not going to count you here. But it just seems like France and Italy were the least, fanatical. Maybe that's the word. It seems like France and Italy were by far the least fanatical and seemed to give up relatively easily. Is that... I'm not trying to just point it out as a joke. Ha. I get it. I like history, but it is curious that happened. That a lot of other countries you would have had to destroy the capital. Anyways, I wonder what you think about that. I hope you guys are all doing well. Let me know if I'm wrong, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.